All right, so today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about National History Day. And some of you have some experience with this because we did it last year at HD. But I know if you were not one of my students last year, then you probably have never heard of this, and this is a brand new thing for you. However, this is something we will be doing this year as an 8th grade, the entire 8th grade. It is part of a grade for your social studies class, and there'll be some language arts components as well. So this is your introduction to what it is and to get you to start thinking about what you might want to do for your project. So what is NHD? It's National History Day. You'll see in the grade book or on Infinite Campus, a lot of times I'll abbreviate it as NHD. But it is a national competition on research of a historical figure or event that's related to the assigned theme. Kind of like, think like a science fair, where you choose something that you want to research and develop, and then you will be judged on that project. And they choose one theme each year, but almost any area of interest can fit into that theme. So you can choose any person or any event or any idea related to that theme for your project. And they choose a broad theme so that it could be a sports figure, or maybe you're interested in women's history or African American history or Native American history. Maybe you're interested in wars or military. There's so many choices that you can do, and you'll find a way to fit in with the theme. So as you start gathering research, students then have to use primary and secondary sources to research the topic of their choice. And I know some of you are not familiar with what that means, and we'll get into that further as we do our research, and I'll give you examples of primary and secondary sources and how to do that. But what you'll need to know today, because later you're going to have to start brainstorming some possible ideas, is that a primary source is a source that is a first-hand account. Somebody who was there, who witnessed it, has first-hand knowledge. A secondary source would be like a textbook, something that you read about from something else and somebody else researched it. Primary would be newspapers from that day, videos, pictures from that day, interviews with the people. So the closer you can get to the actual person or event in your research, the stronger your project will be, because they do look at how many primary sources you had. And the more you can have, the better it is. Then students will choose a category to compete in 4 competitions. Not everybody will compete in all 4 competitions. For our purposes, everyone at HD will compete in the school competition, obviously. And you will be judged, and the top contenders in each category at the school will move on to the regional competition. I do not know where regionals will be this year. Last year, they tried something new, and they put it at UNC Asheville for the first time. It may still be at UNC Asheville, but as we all know, a lot has changed in Asheville over the last couple of weeks, and some places just aren't accessible, and I know that UNC Asheville had a lot of damage. I do not know if it's stuff that will be fixed in time for regionals or if they'll have to move it. If they move it, I'm just speculating, but I know that in the past they always had the competition at Western, so maybe that's an option because Western didn't have as much damage as Asheville, but they may still have it in Asheville. That's something that they have not announced yet, and we don't know. But people from HD will be guaranteed to move on to regionals because the judges at HD get to choose who moves on. So there'll be, I would say, at least 15 to 20 projects that are going to go to regionals. Then at regionals you compete, and the top 3 in each category will move on to the state level, and then the top 2 in each category at state move on to nationals, which is in Washington, D.C. So I have a couple of video clips that I'm going to show you to help you get an idea firsthand what it is. And this first video is interviewing people at the national level at their competitions, asking them about their projects, what they like about it. And you'll see like a kid talks about his pins from different states. And that's one of the really neat things they do at nationals. everyone from North Carolina, say, will get a bag of like 10 or 15 of these pins with their state logo for that year on it. And then you trade with other people as you meet people from other areas. And you try and collect as many pins as possible from other states and get to know people from other states. And I've taken the students to nationals before, and they ended up with, I don't know, probably 30 pins, and there were even kids from other countries. So I've taken kids to nationals that have pins from Korea on there, pins from France, all sorts of places. So it's a really neat idea, and I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like at the national level. It's going to take a half second to load because it is through Facebook, but we'll get it here. Gotta make sure it's not muted. Here we go. All right, so that is History Day. Oh, we don't need it going on to the next one. Also, here's another video clip to kind of give you some more information about what the national celebration and national competition looks like. Alrighty, so in this video I'm not going to play for you today, but I am going to post a link to it on my Infinite Campus. I've created a folder for National History Day, and I will post that link because I think it'll have a lot of valuable information. It's from National History Day site, and it's going over this year's theme and some of the ideas for this year's theme. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this year's stuff too. How do you compete? Well, there are 5 competition categories. You can compete by writing an essay, a paper. You can have an exhibit board. That's, as she said, the tabletop exhibit. Think like science fair, you know, a trifold board that you've decorated. You could make a documentary video. You can create a website, or you can do a performance if that is something you're interested in. All of these have lots of different options and opportunities for you to kind of, the sky's the limit. Now, they do have rules that you have to follow. So there's length requirements. On the exhibit board, you can only have so many words. On the paper, you have to have a certain amount of words. So there will be rules within it, but then you can also be really creative. And each category, with the exception of the paper, has 2 divisions. There's an individual or group. So if you're doing an exhibit board, for example, and you want to work all by yourself, you'd be the individual exhibit board category. But if you want to get with 3 of your other friends, because the most they'll allow is 4 in a group, if you want to have a group of 4 and do an exhibit board, then you'd be the group exhibit board division. So, and those 2 do not compete together. An individual exhibit board competes only against individual exhibit boards, and group exhibit boards only compete against group exhibit boards, which is another important distinction too. A website is not competing against a documentary, and a paper doesn't compete against a performance. There's each category, you're only judged against people who are doing the same type of project as you. The only exception is paper you cannot do as a group. It's only available as individual. So there are 9 categories that you can choose to compete in. Middle and high school both compete, but they don't compete against each other. So if there is a high schooler doing an individual exhibit board, you will not be competing against them. You would be junior individual exhibit board while they are senior individual exhibit board. So you are they try to make it as fair as possible in regards to who you are competing against. So getting started, you have to know the rules. And as you get started, I have the rule book and I study those rules like nobody's business. And I will sit down with you and help make sure that your project is meeting all the criteria and all the rules. You need to understand what the theme is. And as you can see, I've kind of told you already, and we started brainstorming this last week, but the theme this year is rights and responsibilities and how they go together. And so we've started brainstorming how to understand that theme, what are rights and what are responsibilities that come with that. And then you choose a topic of concern to you. And your topic could be, well, I'm concerned with, I don't know, Native American right to vote. Back, you know, when they first started getting the right to vote. And then you could talk about the responsibilities that came with that. So then you choose a specific issue within that, and then you choose your category. It's usually easiest to choose your topic first, or have an idea of your topic, and then determine your category. Because sometimes people will say, well, I'm going to do a documentary. And then when they get to their topic, they're like, oh, this would have looked much better as a website. So it's better to choose your topic and then start determining your category. It's important to know that it can change. You can say, I'm going to do a website, and then as you're doing the research, decide to switch to something else because you haven't started creating it. But once you start creating the website, it's really hard to change categories as it gets closer to the competition. So choosing a topic, that's a process of gradually narrowing down your idea to a period of history or an event that interests you. So it could look something like this. The theme could be leadership and legacy. We know that's not the theme this year. And you might be interested in presidential power and what can the president do. And you're really interested in particular with Andrew Jackson and the Cherokee Nation. and how the Trail of Tears took place. So your issue would be the refusal of a president to enforce a Supreme Court ruling. And you kind of narrow it down. I know this sounds really complex right now, but if you ask students that have done it in the past, once you choose a topic, it's really not as deep as it seems. So again, this year's theme, rights and responsibilities in history. And these are some examples of kind of how it looks as you get going. These websites and stuff will not still pull up. I have other examples I'm going to show you in a minute. But at the school level, this is a school level competition, and you are not presenting your project in front of a whole room of people at the school level. It is simply you and one or two judges, or you and your group and one or two judges, and they're going to ask you questions about your project. And the questions are not as scary as people are anticipating when you get in there. A lot of times it's, why did you choose this project? What was the best source you found? What was most interesting to you? That kind of stuff. Really, they're just trying to confirm that you actually did the research and you didn't have somebody else do it for you. So one of the categories you can compete in is exhibit boards, and that's where I said the sky's the limit. You might have a really simple exhibit, or you could add on to it like these girls did off on the right, and they have something built out in front of them. But again, it could just be a trifold board with pictures on it. I have some pictures from years past that I can show you here as well. Dun, dun, dun. Probably sample exhibit boards, I bet you is where I put it. Yes. So I think some of these people will look familiar to some of you, but obviously this is their project from last year, and they did it on Steph Curry, so they put a lot of artistic work into that and built that up, but they didn't have to have anything coming off of it or anything like that. That was their board. This one, Turning the Tides of War, that belongs to some of you. I know Jonathan did one. My son, Jonathan, did one that he had built out of wood and then had stuff coming off of it, because that's an option you can do as well. So this is the type of stuff for exhibit boards. It doesn't matter if you do it on something real big like this, or if you put it on a trifold board. This was just a simple trifold board right here, and they actually made theirs, this was at the state level, they actually made theirs 3D so that that's coming out right there. But you can kind of see in the background there how many of these projects are not 3D. It's just a simple board, and then some that really went all out and did all sorts of stuff. It's up to you how you want to do this. Then you can have, I'm going to skip down exhibits. There's performances. Let's just go through it this way. This is probably easiest. When you're judged, like I said, even at the state level, it's just a few people standing there talking to you. But it would look like this, as I said, kind of like a science fair. This is the exhibit room. And people walk around and they look at your exhibit. But for the most part, you just kind of hang out. When you're not being judged, there's not a whole lot you have to do with it. You could choose to make a documentary, and I'll show you how to do that as that time comes. Once you get into it, most people have found it's not too difficult once you start figuring out the software. I'm not going to show you a whole documentary, but just an idea. You can show pictures and you talk as you go. So as you can see, he is showing pictures and talking over it, and that's really all you have to do. You can include video clips within it if you want. These people had video clips going through theirs as well. Let's see if I can get that to pull up and show you. But for every video clip and picture you have to show it, and show where you got it. So they did pictures. Let's see. So that's the idea of documentary. Um, I'm not sure I am able to pull up websites. Let me see if that is something that I can get pulled up here for you. Perfect. I was able to pull this up. I wasn't sure if National History Day had taken it down yet. But they give you a website, a free website that you can use. As you can tell, the website address up there is site.nhd.org, and then you're given a code. But then these girls created their site with, their claim, their information about Poe's life, and all of these links take them to their research. And they have pictures and information, and you can have video clips in there. It just depends on how much you put. Now, these girls went kind of above and beyond, but that gives you the same basic idea of what you have to do for it. So that is the information about National History Day and what is required as far as how to choose a topic and what you need to be considering as you go about it. I will have, like I said, a folder on Infinite Campus. Just like when you go to curriculum on the ELA Infinite Campus page, and it has each week's list as a resource, I created a folder on there that says National History Day. And I have got this slideshow in there. I'm going to put this video in there, that video from YouTube that I showed you, all sorts of resources. And as we go, I'll be uploading other documents that you can use and other resources that might be of assistance to you. So that is all you need to know about National History Day.